Everything is fired up right now. Still
Yeah,
see.
I think we're good to go.
Sweet. Okay. Awesome. Um. Wow. What a fucking episode. Welcome everyone. We're here to break down the pilot of Dune Prophecy. Damon, do you know what the episode title was for this one?
Yeah, I think it was the hidden hand.
The Hidden Hand. Yeah, so that was quite the fucking opener. I thought it was phenomenal. We're the Winter Hill Warriors. I'm Chenny Britt. This is Damon. We are gonna break this shit down. Damon, what did you think? Initial thoughts before we start going into this breakdown.
Initial thoughts, I loved it. I think that they did a really solid job not spending too much time on the opening scene with all the Butlerian jihad as revolting against the machines because it's really hard to show that going down without it looking kind of messy and kind of it's not really an easy thing to show on screen. It looked kind of goofy for some reason, but they did a nice job getting right through that, setting the tone, and I think we have a real solid narrative base for the rest of the season.
Yeah. And listen, for full disclosure, Damon has read how many of the Dune books?
I read a few.
You read a few. Okay, so I haven't read shit. So I'm gonna be like, there's gonna be a lot of things that I don't know. I know that this is a different story, right? But I'm gonna basically be the eyes of the casual fan. But let's get into it. So, as you had just mentioned, whatever that jihad was called, the Butlerian,
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah. So we kind of get like the intro narration, and basically it says like, yeah, the machine started taking over. Elon Musk and Sam Altman and all of their kind have now flooded the world with AI, and basically the humans had to destroy the machines in order to free themselves. So we kind of see just a quick little montage of how that went down. And I guess it was an Atreides who led the humans to victory. And the narrator, her name is Valya Harkonnen, and she says that her great grandfather deserted the fight. And the war, when the war ended, all thinking machine technology was banned, so no phones, nothing like that. And then the Harkonnen family was branded as cowards, and they were banished to a desolate world, right? So this is young Valya at this time, and we see her right here, and she's fucking pissed that her family name has been besmirched, and she says that the Atreides have told some lies, right? They've been lying about just how bad the Harkonnens actually were. So then she says, I'm setting off on this mission to change this shit. Then we cut to her and her sister Tula. They've now enrolled in the, I'm going to call it the Bene Gesserit Institution. But what is this technically called, David? This,
Technically, at this point, it's the Sisterhood. So, if we're going to throw this into Harry Potter terms, picture it as if Hogwarts was just called like the Wizard School
yeah.
before it actually became official many years down the line. This is the preemptive Benny
Yeah.
Gesserit, but TM, the Sisterhood.
Okay, so this is still the Sisterhood at this point. And I guess their powers, like, they don't have, like, elite powers yet, right? They got some powers, but nothing crazy, right?
Yeah, it's mostly going to be focused on like, basic truth saying type stuff and wisdom, if you will, almost more of like a spiritual, I wouldn't say like nuns, but closer to nuns than what we know the Bene Gesserit as in the present. Yes.
Okay, sweet, sweet. And also, so we see the uh, the leader at this time of the Sisterhood. Her name is Raquella Berto Honor Roll. I'm probably fucking that pronunciation up so bad, but she's this older woman, right? Is that how you pronounce it? I know it's Raquella, but
Yeah, we could just go over Kella.
Raquella. So Raquella's running the show, and she trained the sisters to work as truthsayers. So I guess she fought in the war back in the day. So she's a legit veteran. She's seen combat, and she's basically teaching all of these sisters to like Damon said, be able to tell if people are lying. Right. This is almost like CIA, FBI type shit, and so I guess the situation is that all of the great houses get someone from the Sisterhood assigned to them, right? The leaders get them to basically be able to tell who's lying or not. So this is a very, very important position to have. They're almost like human lie detector tests. But at the same time, obviously, this gives this Sisterhood a lot of power. So Raquella knows that the people that she's training, her pupils, have networks all throughout the Imperium, and she, as a result, has a lot of power. Let me just keep fast forwarding because it's a quick montage. I don't want to spend too much time on this. Raquella also had a lot of secrets, right, David? Is that fair to say? So she's embarking on this secret project. Tell me a little bit more about this, but she wants to breed better leaders, so she amasses a vast genetic archive. Is she just keeping tabs on like every single royal family member? Is that what it is, basically?
That's exactly what she's doing. She's trying to see like mix and match, if you put these two bloodlines together, what kind of a ruler would that produce? What genetics, like stability wise, physicality wise, all the above. Which is it's kind of like eugenics, but for the sake of stability. But that also feels exactly like how people have tried to spin eugenics positively. So that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah, let's Raquella was into eugenics. Um, Anyways, I think this woman right here, that's her granddaughter, Doratella. Yes, yes. Doratella is her granddaughter. So we see at this point, young Valya and her sister Tula are enrolled under Raquella, and they're at this planet called Wallach 9. Is that how you pronounce it? Wallach 9, homeworld of the Sisterhood. I don't know. I'm trying to remember what planet this reminds me of in Star Wars, or whichever planet that Star Wars basically just like poached from, right? Like it basically just stole this. What's the one in Clone Wars when Obi-Wan pulls up and he's like sees all the clones?
Oh, that's a deep pull. I
Yeah.
don't have that one.
Oh, I got the fucking whiskey rolling tonight, boys. All right. So at this point, fucking Raquella is on her deathbed. She's old as shit, and her I said Dorothea, my fault. Dorothea is her granddaughter's name. So Dorothea is at her side, being like, "What do you need?" But Raquella doesn't really give a fuck. She's like, "Give me Valya Harkonnen. That's who I need." So that's tough, and it doesn't really seem like from the reaction of all of the sisters that Valya is very well liked, right? Is that fair to say, Damon?
Picture if we can do like another Harry Potter reference, or even let's just take it to like even Game of Thrones, Harry Potter, however you want to spin it. This would be like if the Night's Watch commander was like, "Bring me Jon Snow,"
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
Jon
yeah.
Snow pulled up there, and they're all like, "What, that guy?" Or like when Harry first starts getting play at Hogwarts, and everyone's like, "You sure we trust this guy?" Like
Yeah.
that's the similar vibe this is because they know she's powerful as shit, but there's the idea that she may be a little too, I would say, radical or forceful in her ways.
Yes. Okay. Yes, that's fair. Um, so word spreads that Raquella has requested to see fucking Valya, and everyone's like, "Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god!" So Valya pulls up, and Raquella then like kicks everyone else out of the room, right? So everyone leaves other than Valya and Raquella, and then Raquella is tells her that this red dust, the Tiran Arafel, is coming, and we see this vision that Raquella has of just this, we see a fucking major war going on in Arrakis. We see the sandworms. We see a lot of just like death and shit like that, explosions, war. War is coming, and she's freaking the fuck out. And she tells Valya, look, it's your job to lead this sisterhood, and you got to grow us, safeguard our power, and we got to be strengthened or else we're cooked. Oh, I also lied. Dorothea still remains. So it's just Dorothea, Raquella, and Valya. Now, obviously, this creates some issues, right? Because no one else is there to witness Raquella be like, yeah, I'm giving the torch to you, right? So it's a bit tough because Valya is basically jumping over Dorothea, but Raquella tells her, look, you will be the one to see the burning truth and know, and that's that. So then I think she dies right there. So then I'm gonna pause right here, actually, Damon. Thoughts?
Yeah, for sure. I think that this is a big moment because even from the beginning, we know that Valya's whole thing is that she wants this redemption arc for her family line, right? back when this all went down, her great grandfather basically tried to get in the way of the Atreides solving the revolution by sacrificing a couple million people, which sounds like a lot of people, and it is, but at the time it was worth it. And because he got in the way, that's why the Harkonnens were labeled as like meddlers and traitors and were basically banished, right? So this is her come up. This is her moment for that. She's telling her family's tale. Um, the foresight of this prophecy, right? If you remember the quote that Valya gives us, like, what holds more truth, history or prophecy? And that sort of frames up what we're going to see in this season. Even in the present Dune movies, prophecy is what gives us Paul, right? Prophecy is the whole framework in which he gets delivered, in which he ascends to the throne, all that jazz. So the Tehran Arafel sounds kind of similar as to what went down with Paul, but with a little twist because this one happens much sooner. But a lot of this stuff is cyclical, right?
Yes.
The point is that the Sisterhood, future Bene Gesserit, copyright infringement protected, they're trying to gain influence, like you said, and this represents them losing that influence. Like the reason they dislike this so much is the lives lost are going to be bad, but this also represents them losing the power that they seek. And this is where we see the differences between Valya and Dorothea when talking about adversity, right? Most would run from it. I would walk through it, is what Valya says about getting her hands dirty in terms of what is going to happen here. And the next scene between these two reveals quite a bit about what direction the sisterhood takes.
Yeah. So after Raquel dies, Valya's telling all of her fellow classmates that look, there's the vision was that there's going to be this holy war brought upon by a tyrant who we all know is going to be Paul Atreides. And she's telling her sisters like, look, we got to prepare. We got to put one of ours on the throne. So somebody in our group is on the throne. It's going to be a woman. It's going to be an empress to rule the Imperium, one loyal to us. But the sisters are like, look, Dorothea is never going to agree. Oh, and here's we see Kasha. So Kasha at this point is here. Kasha is like seems to be a good friend of Valya's at this point. So Kasha is the one who's like, look, Dorothea is never going to agree. But Valya is like, no, we have to try to make this work. So we kind of get this whole this whole burial ceremony for Raquel, and then this is when Valya kind of like openly tries to challenge Dorothea and say like we have to keep pushing the boundaries of what it means to be human. So she wants to grow their powers, right? She wants to grow their powers, make them really figure out like here's what we're capable of. Like we're more than just CIA, agents that could tell if you're lying or not. Like we got to get some magical powers in here. So she's saying like we have to get stronger. We got to use everything at our disposal to gain more power. And then that's when Dorothea kind of just shuts her down in front of everyone and says, look, humility is the foundation of our virtues. I kind of like Dorothea. And so everyone kind of keels over to Dorothea. And but like you said, Damon, this quote, Valya says, adversity always lies in the path of advancement. So then we get this one-on-one scene with Valya and Dorothea where Dorothea, like, explain to me what's going on here, right? So Dorothea takes over the office of her grandmother and then looks for this what is it, like a USB essentially or something that like gives them access to the breeding index? Is that basically just like all the records of like all the royal family members of the houses? Is that what that is?
Yes, and the traits, picture these as the cheat codes that would allow the sisterhood to maneuver around and create all these genetic matches between the houses.
Okay, so Dorothea is looking for it, and Valya's trying to stop her, and Dorothea is just like, dude, you're a selfish, like, fucking prick. Like, and she's not wrong. And you risk everything to just kind of like keep your principles pure. So you're a pure Slytherin if we're going by a Harry Potter reference. But Dorothea, she is defying what her grandmother is saying. Like her grandmother did give instructions that were clear that Valya agreed with. But Dorothea is like, look, it doesn't matter. This breeding index, this isn't a tool. This is us playing God, and we can't be doing this shit. So what is Dorothea looking to do? Is she looking to destroy it at this point?
Yeah, she either wants to destroy it or basically get rid of it in a way where nobody else has access to it. In her mind, the sisterhood's job is to like guide virtue and help the imperium, like support the imperium, where Valya is like, no, we need to guide the imperium. We need to be the ones with the joystick telling them what to do, when it's going to happen. We got to be equal partners here, not just an advisor off to the side.
Yes, I like that. And this is where, as Dorothea is about to go, Valya like displays or debuts a never before used power, right? Like, is this the first time we kind of see it in the Dune universe, which is the voice? Because at this point they hadn't had this yet. So she's basically she drops the voice and is just like stop, and then Dorothea stops. It's like what the fuck, and then Valya says, "Look, I've been working on this little skill, which is like basically mind control, which is insane." And Dorothea is freaking out, like, oh my God. And Valya says, look, I wanted to teach you this skill and share it with everyone else, but I will if you bend the knee to me. And Dorothea says, I will never bend to you, Valya Harkonnen. And I think it's implied that Valya is actually using her, like, truth-saying skills and looking at Dorothea, and she can tell that Dorothea means what she says. She will never bend to her. So Valya has no choice. She commands Dorothea to stab herself in the throat. And she does, and now she's dead. All the other sisters pull up and they see what's happened. And what are they going to do? They can't challenge Valya. Like, Valya could kill them all. So she takes control, and her sister's like, what do we do? And Valya goes, it's all about the sisterhood, nothing else. And then we jump to 30 years later. This is 30 years later. It's 116 years after the end of the Great Machine Wars. And it's about 10,148 years before the birth of Paul Atreides. I'm going to stop before this time jump to present day. What did you think about that whole backstory?
I thought it was really well done. You could tell that Dorothea felt some type of way about Raquella deferring to Valya, so they weren't going to be able to coexist. It is the first use of the voice that we see. If we're talking power scales in terms of how much they know about their abilities, how much they've explored, Valya is head and shoulders above Dorothea, which is probably the reason why Raquella told her that, because she had a feeling that Valya would take the control of the lead of this at some point or another.
Yes.
So it's better to have influence than to not have influence and like live in denial that you're just going to hand it down to your granddaughter. But this is also proof that the Harkonnens are conniving even 10,000 years in the past. History
Facts.
is the past, prophecy alters the future, was the note that I put down here, where I think that's what Valya's, her whole theme is I'm going to change the way everybody sees us. I'm going to take control of the future. The past, like my family's already fumbled the past. Like that's not, I don't care about history. I care about prophecy. And I think that the blood entering the water pool at the end of that cutscene is a really nice symbol for how things are never going to go back to how they were, and that the future has been forever altered. Because when you're talking about prophecies, anything that you do is a little butterfly effect. It can have untold influence, even if you didn't think it would matter from the jump.
Yes. Yes. Well said. So let's jump to present day. We are back still at Wallach 9, right? And we just kind of see like schools in session, and we see now Valya is still in charge. She's much older now. She's like probably in her like 50s, and she's kind of getting requests from the various houses. So House Varric and House Kumali are both sending in requests to the Sisterhood to get their own truthsayers, and Harkonnen has put in a fourth request. So Valya has denied her own house a request for a truthsayer 3 times already, and Valya ends up denying Harkonnen that request for a 4th straight time. She says yes to House Varric, and Kumali, she says they'll have to wait. So I actually had to replay that scene a little bit because I was like, what the fuck is going on again? So then, what's it called? Yeah, and Valya looks just a little bit concerned, like something's just a little like bothering her. Then we cut to kind of the younger students. I think this girl's name is Theodora, right? Is it Theodora? I think
Theodosia,
so.
I think.
Theodosia, dude, I fucking am butchering every single name. Theodosia. Either way, their studies are broken up by imperial guards or imperial guards. So basically, what's happening is the emperor's daughter is got accepted to this school. So she's coming up in a week or so, and the guards from the Emperor's planet are coming in just to kind of check on things before obviously the daughter is going to pull up and study here, and the daughter is about to get married. So they're just the girls are just kind of gossiping about the marriage and what's going on, and then we see that the daughter, the princess's half brother, his name is Constantine, pulls up, and this dude is like so fucking handsome. Like, he's like a fucking male model, bro. So he pulls up, and he kind of reminds me of Gladiator 1. Who fucking what was his name again?
Oh yeah,
Right,
yeah.
Gladiator 1. He plays the Emperor in Gladiator 1.
Oh, you
So
mean like Joaquin Phoenix?
yeah. He kind of
Gladiator one?
looks a bit like Joaquin Phoenix, bro. So
Circa 2001,
yeah,
2002.
yeah. So he pulls up. He's already making eyes at one of the sisters, who's like, yeah, he's super hot and he's rich. Like, that's like pretty hot. So yeah, it's just kind of like normal like teenage gossip and stuff, and whatnot. So he's there to basically just check on the conditions that his half sister, is going to be studying in. And we also learned that what's it called? The princess is going to get her own truth sayer, right? Is that correct, Damon? So the princess is coming to study here, but she's also going to get assigned one of the sisters as her truth sayer.
Yeah, and then they make the comment like, well, I think she's coming here so she doesn't need a truth sayer. So that's a little ambiguous, but she already has one now. So I'm assuming they would still try to pair her up in some way.
Okay. So let me skip ahead. So then we kind of see the one-on-one meeting between Valya and Constantine, and all Constantine is asking for is just to make sure that his sister's going to be safe, and blah blah blah. And then he makes a demand, and when we also learn that she's going to spend the next 10 years of her life here. And Constantine then makes a demand that his sister gets her own room, and Valya's basically like, no, she's not getting her own room. Also, Valya's title is now Mother Superior, right? Is that correct? Mother Superior Valya. That's an insane fucking title. So Valya's just like, yeah, no, your sister's gonna follow by our rules. She's gonna be safe, but she's got to live in the dorms. She's got to be treated like every other student. And Constantine's like, that's not acceptable. And then they have a stare down, and Valya's like, well, that's unfortunate. And then we see that Constantine's just joking. He's like, yeah, I had to try. So Valya was a little bit worried that she was going to have war on her hands potentially. But it's all good, and the contract is signed. So the tuition is paid for. So I'm going to pause here, David.
This is a huge maneuver because if we take a look at what Valya wants, right? She's able to give approvals and denials to all the houses, and she pretty much tips the scales in terms of who she wants to keep in the dark and who she wants to give information to. The Bene Gesserit model is taking shape here, similar to how Leto was given, or Jessica was given to Leto. Like, you can do a lot of stuff by just simply directing people to go from one place to another. Having the heir to the throne in your school is such a huge sway of influence, which is all that she's ever wanted. This would be the ultimate way to have say over the Imperium if you could put somebody that you've trained yourself onto the throne. And I really like the scene where she's negotiating with her brother, because she does not sway whatsoever when he tries to make some demands. And I was just asking, like, he backs down very easily. So it's clear that Valya has some respect in this universe and isn't someone that people walk all over. It's someone that's taken seriously. So I think that so far the cards just come up all wins for her, because once you have the princess in here, you pretty much get her like to mold her formatively in terms of how she sees the world and how she views the order, the Bene Gesserit, or the Sisterhood, who is going to become that, and how much freedom and how much control they're going to have.
Yeah. Yep. And now is also a good time to mention that basically Constantine and his sister, they're from, what is it, House Corrino? So House Corrino is the house that's like basically ruling the rest of the Imperium, the universe, right?
Yes.
Okay. Just got to double check.
It's actually the same family line as where we see the Emperor, Christopher Walken, and, Princess Irulan, AKA Florence Pugh in the second Dune movie too, so it's like that line has continued all the way down through.
Very impressive. Yeah, so that line continues for 10,000 years then. Is this going to tie into the eventual Dune story, or did they kind of change this? Where like is this taking place in a universe where maybe it's like Dune 1 and Dune 2 don't end up going down?
I think it's the same universe just because of, like, the production company and the rights that Warner Brothers has to all the above. So I'm just gonna operate like everything has to connect. Maybe there's some stuff that doesn't quite go here to here,
Yeah.
but I don't think it's like a Marvel or a DC move where they're just like, "Oh, everything's different. We're gonna do our own thing and tell it our own way now."
Okay.
Because this was not like a main book. This was from the son of
Oh,
Frank Herbert. This is
did
from Brian Herbert, so it's like this is not even a book that people thought was gonna end up as a movie, so I think they'll just tie it in and link it up.
and his son wrote like 60 books, right? Or some crazy shit
He
like
wrote a
that.
bunch.
Okay. So we then cut to Valya's sister Tula. So now Tula is like a head instructor at the Sisterhood, and she's teaching all of these young students about like just basically white matter in the brain and how you can tell when someone is lying. Basically saying like we inherently know that when we lie it's bad. So like there's going to be a lot of biological tells that show that we're lying. So, basically just explaining the theory behind how to tell if someone is lying. And then that's when she gets cut off by her sister Valya. And Valya's like, look, fuck all of this theory. We got to get to application. So tomorrow you guys are having your tests anyways. And so get some rest today. Tomorrow you guys are going to be tested on if you can actually tell if someone is lying. So then that just leaves Talia, or not Talia, I keep saying Talia, Tula and Valya, and they're kind of talking about just what went down with Constantine. And Valya's like, yeah, it all went down. Like he's in a week, we're going to get his sister. We're going to get the princess of the Imperium, who's going to be our student, which is a fucking huge win for us. So they're pumped about that. Then we cut to Salusa Secundus. I can't fucking pronounce these. Salusa Secundus. This is homeworld of the Imperial House. And we see that there's like this extremely sexually charged sparring session between the princess. Her name is Ynez, right? Is it Ynez? And then they call her Ynez?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm just going to call her Ynez. And then her instructor is this dude named Kieran. And like it's just getting very sexual. They're kind of doing the body shield sparring, blah, blah, blah. And I thought at this point they were about to start making out. But then real quick, Constantine interrupts. And he knows, like, he's in on it. He knows that, like, there's a lot of sexual chemistry between Kieran and his sister. He doesn't care. He kind of makes a joke about it. And then he's obviously very tight with his sister. And they got a good dynamic, right? So anyways, they're, Kieran's obviously sad that his crush is about to spend the next 10 years of her life on Wallach 9. And so is her brother. But, it is what it is. So she's asking, she's like, hey, you're just there. Like, what did Wallach 9 seem like? And he's like, it fucking sucks. It's all barren landscapes. And then, what's it called? Then they keep training, right? Then we see, this is a little bit more important, but this is the meeting between House, is it Richese or Richese? Richese.
Richese.
Richese. So House Richese and then the Emperor. So what's it called? Kieran, so Constantine and Ynez are the daughters of the Emperor Corrino. I think his first name is like Javicco or Javicco or something. Javicco.
Yeah, Javicco.
Javicco Corrino. So he's the emperor, and then his daughter and son is Constantine and fucking Ynez. And then Kieran works, or he's part of House Corrino. So he's part of, this is House Corrino. This is their home planet or home base. And then we see the house Richese, right?
Yep.
Richese. The Duke of Richese, the leader of House Richese, he is here, and it's going to be his son marrying Ynez, and he's like, hey, we're going to send you guys a fleet of ballista motherships. That's kind of our wedding gift. and this is a marriage for political power. And both sides, do both houses have their own truthsayers? They do, right? Yes.
Yes.
So Emperor Corrino has his truthsayer, who is Kasha, who we actually saw from earlier in the episode, who was Valya's friend. And then we see the other truthsayer. I don't think we know her name. Her name is Truthsayer Vera. So Vera is House Richese's truthsayer, and as they're about to shake on it and agree to this deal, there's one more condition that the Duke tries to insert into this contract, which is like, hey, we would love to just have one of our fleets on planet Arrakis. So now this is the first time we really hear about Arrakis, and we know that Emperor Corrino and his house controls Arrakis. They're still fighting against the Fremen, and they're harvesting spice. And the reason why he needs to have this marriage go through is because he doesn't have as much power, like military power, as House Richese. So he needs the fleet of starships in order to control Arrakis. And he knows that letting House Richese have their own fleet on the planet would be pretty fucking sketchy, in case they ever, the relationship ever went bad and they wanted to try to take over that planet for themselves. But there's nothing you can do. So at first he kind of just he consults with his what's it called? Or actually, let me pause here, Damon, before I get into him consulting with Kasha. If you have thoughts on this.
Yeah, sounds good. This is a high leverage negotiation, like you said, because even though we're 10,000 years in the past, spice is still a thing. So, Arrakis, even though it's a hellhole, even though it's filled with sandworms for the untrained eye, uh, this is the kind of place that you're going to want to have as much influence and as much of a hand in the pot if you can, because spice is still the ultimate currency that it really runs the world around here. So Richese is really just scheming up, and the issues happening on Arrakis, like the reason that he would need the fleet, this should send some at least yellow flags up, because this is similar to how the Atreides were strong armed into a bad arrangement on Arrakis in the current Dune universe, right? So we can see some things popping up again. And then Kieran, the sword master, is also an Atreides, so we have some more Atreides connections going down here. He's like the Duncan Idaho, or the Gurney Halleck, if you will.
So I lied. He's not fucking part of House Corrino. He's part of House of Trade. See, this is why it's good for you to fucking fact check me on my bullshit.
Oh, no worries, man. Yeah, he is from House Atreides. So he is Paul's great times 100 grandfather. So that's that.
Sweet. And then I forgot to mention. So as the Duke initially proposes, like, hey, yeah, let's just have one of our fleets on Arrakis as well. We see that each of the truthsayers, Kasha and Vera, are communicating. So Vera warns Kasha, look, because at the end of the day, they're loyal to the Sisterhood, right? Or they're supposed to be. So Vera communicates using one of her hand signals, telling Kasha, look, my Duke aims to take control of Arrakis. From there, he can sway the great houses and maybe become emperor himself. And Kasha says, look, let's just consummate this wedding. We'll deal with the Duke when it's done. Let's not worry about anything else. So already we see that the truthsayers, the Sisterhood, they're in the back puppeteering. Either way, what's it called? The Emperor consults with Kasha, and then Kasha's like, yes, just go through with the deal. So he's like, all right, you have a deal. You get to keep one of your fleets or whatever. Like you get to keep a small fleet on planet Arrakis. Like we'll have the engagement ceremony down the line. Then we cut back to Wallach 9, and we see the test going down, where each of the we should see some training, right? So they're doing some like combat training and whatnot, and now the test is going down where each of them are gonna have to see if they can tell who's lying, right, or something like that. So we kind of see a little montage. This girl's name, now correct me if I'm wrong on the names. All right, I just want to get the names down. But this girl's name is, let me see, where did I put it in my notes? Lila, right? So her name is Lila. And she, I guess, like her weakness is that like she's a little bit too empathetic. Then we see this girl's name is Emmeline. So this is Emmeline. Then this girl's name is Jen. And then we already saw Theodora earlier. So we kind of see all this go down. the combat's going down, blah blah blah, and then they all go through their tests, and then Jen starts talking shit. Like, we don't see who's successfully passed their test, right?
They don't really confirm it. I guess we're just supposed to kind of take it as we see it.
Okay. Yeah. So the tests kind of go down. I guess they all do okay, and then Jen, like, we see them all giving their answers of like, this man's a liar, he lies, or whatever, and then Jen kind of just talks shit. It's just like, this is the best you guys got. And then Valya is kind of mad at Jen for speaking out and speaking out of order. And then Valya is just like, all right, well, if you think this is so easy, right? If it's so easy to lie, then why the fuck are you here? And then Valya tells this story that when she was a child, her parents sold her to a man who made his money selling child's flesh. And then she eventually killed the man and then went back and then killed her parents. And everyone's like mortified. Then she starts chuckling and is like, oh, I was just lying. So she kind of demonstrates her own ability to pass a lie, which might imply that she's a little bit sociopathic, and shows that she truly is gifted. And she even brings a slight smile to Valya's fucking face. And then even Tula's looking back at her like, yeah, this girl's talented, but she's a bit of a problem. And then we see that Jen gets a dirty look from Lila. So I'm going to pause there.
Yeah, it's almost like Valya sees a little bit of herself in that one. So the whole training sequence, I think, is essential because we're going to be spending a lot of time here, especially as Ynez gets into training in this area. So it's going to be important to like see if we can pigeonhole each of these characters into what they could get up to, who's going to get along with who, and get an early read on everything. Because, I mean, like you said, the Sisterhood are effectively agents that come together to negotiate and broker deals, and they're all trying to keep it in the family. Even back to the last scene that you mentioned, even though they know that they are screwing over the Emperor, they know that they have to make the Arrakis deal happen because part of what they're doing is they're keeping everybody off balance so that nobody eats anybody else alive, so that the prophecy can fulfill. All of this is at the expense of that. So they always have a hand in the pot. So these are going to be the people that are going to be introduced to Ynez probably, I would say, next episode, 2 episodes from now. But at some point, this is the world we're going to be grounded in most of the time.
Yep. Then we get back to the planet Seleucus Secundus.
I think it's Secundus, but
Secundus. And we see that Ynez is now getting measured for her wedding corset. And her mom's name is, do you remember what her mom's name is? Is it Natalya?
Natalya.
Yeah, Natalya. So Natalya's kind of like, yeah, I know you've never met your husband yet, but that's the same way it was when I met your dad. And and that's kind of it. And Natalya isn't too pleased with Ynez wanting to study with the Sisterhood. But Ynez is like, look, this is going to help me with my leadership of the Imperium eventually. And Natalya says, look, this isn't the arrangement, the marriage that I wanted. And I guess there's several reasons Natalya has for that. But one, we find out that her future husband's name is Pruitt Richese. And I guess he's 9 years old. So until he comes of age, Ynez is allowed to do whatever the fuck she wants. So she's like, I could just fuck anybody until he comes of age. And if anything, I would make him younger so I could just have more and more years of freedom, which is a hilariously brutal thing to say. But she's not concerned about this marriage at all. And her mom, Natalya, is also like, yeah, I know you really like the new swordsmaster. I know you think he's like fucking hot and shit. So like, I could see the way that you look at him. Then at this point, this meeting, then we see this soldier arrive from Arrakis. Now, he is a soldier of House Corrino, right? Desmond Hart?
Yes, he was working on behalf of them in Arrakis.
Okay, yeah. So Desmond Hart arrives, and so what's it called? So we actually see Emperor Corrino consulting with Kasha, just being like, I know everyone around me is a fucking viper. They just want power. I know Duke Richese's a piece of shit. But at this point, he's interrupted, and they're like, look, one of the soldiers from Arrakis has returned. He was part of that attack that they suffered on Arrakis, and now everyone from House Corrino thinks that the attack happened at the hands of the Fremen. So I guess there's one surviving soldier. His name is Desmond Hart, and this guy looks shady as a motherfucker. Look at this guy's fucking face. So
Yeah.
he pulls up and he's like, "Yeah, I'm the only one who survived, and I'm here to tell you the truth. The attack on Arrakis, it wasn't Fremen. It was there were people from your own, like from the other houses, right? Like other members of the great houses that are supposed to be your allies, and they betrayed you. Now Kasha is checking to see if he's telling a lie, and she says nope, he is telling the truth. Desmond Hart also says that look, when they attacked us, they stole all the spice as well. So this obviously concerns Emperor Corrino. A lot of his fears are coming to fruition. And he's so actually this is important to say. Kasha says not necessarily that Hart is telling the truth. She says that at least he believes he's telling the truth. So that's an interesting distinction that I want to make. So then Corrino's like, okay, what do you want as a reward? You obviously have fought like loyally for my side, and Desmond Hart is just like, look, I just want to be able to stay here and get an appointment in this palace. So the Emperor's like, okay, cool, I can give you that. So I'm gonna pause here before we jump to actually let me just jump to this night scene. So later on that night, we see Kasha. She's about to go to bed, but she just has these terrible visions of Ynez like in pain or whatever, right? It's just like some bad shit's going down, and she's really suffering as a result. And then even the nightmare wakes Ynez up, and then Kasha pulls up to see Ynez that night, and just says, do you remember the day my sisters and I found you? We had no way of knowing what you would discover. A child held captive for years. So that was interesting, Damon. Was Ynez? I thought, how was Ynez held captive? Do you know what's up with that?
No, in terms of her past and everything, I haven't read the Sisterhood book in its entirety, so I don't know her background, but I'd imagine they'll unveil it. Yeah, but I think that's going to be a cool little character development moment.
So yeah, and the reason why that's interesting is because uh, it's because she is the biological daughter of Natalya and Javicco, right? Like
Yeah.
so I guess so it was weird when Kasha was like, look, you were a child held captive for years. So I don't know what that means, what her background is. It seems like she's grown up in privilege, but maybe she's talking more like metaphorically. Who the fuck knows? But either way, Kasha's like, look, I saw you as a kid, and we believe that you're gonna lead the Imperium for years. So then what's it called? Okay, yeah. So that's kind of how the night ends. But she also says she has to leave, right? She's like, I gotta go. I gotta go like on a little solo mission. Like I'll be back. So I'm gonna pause there.
Just to go to back to the Desmond Hart scene, this is really important to note. He kind of looks like from afar like a poor man's Jason Momoa. Like I got some Duncan Idaho flashbacks. Then as he gets closer, he really is more like a Tom Hardy, Ben Mendelsohn hybrid, especially the way that he talks. He sounds a lot like a more manly Ben Mendelsohn. Do you know who that is?
No, I don't.
Like,
I'm
the
about to look
villain
this
from
up.
Star Wars, one of the new villains from Star Wars. He was also the guy that Bane broke his neck in The Dark Knight Rises.
Oh, interesting. Okay, I haven't seen the new Star Wars. So other than like, I think I saw one of them.
He's just like this shady dude with this kind of like a hint of I think it's Australian accent maybe, where he's sort of like, good day, boys. Like, how you doing? Like, this is kind of who he plays off like. You kind of wonder if it is an isolated incident which caused Desmond Hart to basically be ambushed at Arrakis, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do the Sisterhood have a hand in this to help Richese get his way and balance some power out? Was Richese behind the attack on Arrakis? These are just some things that popped up when you saw this because everything's not settling quite right, especially with how things are going on that planet in particular.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so then we cut to the next day when we kind of actually see the Emperor and his wife Natalya, or yeah, Natalya is technically his wife at this point, right? So they're kind of just talking, and Natalya isn't happy about the wedding, and neither is the emperor. And the emperor says, "Look, I don't want to have this wedding go down either. But if we don't have this wedding go down, then we're gonna lose power. We need it to join the Imperium, and we need the fleet that House Richese is gonna give us." And what's it called? Natalya is just like, don't like stop fucking talking politics and power with me. I know all about politics and power, and I'm telling you right now, the Sisterhood, they suggested that our daughter marry young Pruitt because he's so young. There's gonna be way more time for them to just like basically manipulate Ynez and get in Nez's ear before she actually has to like technically be Pruitt's wife. So she's basically saying it's clear why they chose this boy because they can really control her instead of having her have her own voice. So Natalya's not happy about it, and they're just there's some tension there. Then we jump back to Wallach 9, where both Valya, dude, these names are so ridiculous. I would have to like say these names on flashcards like 10 times to remember them. But Valya and Tula are kind of just talking about who they're gonna pick, right, to be Nez's truthsayer when she arrives. So they kind of talk a little bit about Emmeline, and so I think Valya or Tula suggests maybe Emmeline, and because she performed well in the tests, and Valya is just like, nope, it's no way. And Tula's like, is it because she doesn't come from a royal background? And Valya's like, it's not that. She's just too rigid. She's too by the rules. She's not gonna be someone who we can kind of control. Basically, that's basically what she says. Like, we can't really mold her views. So then they talk a little bit about Jen. And Valya definitely likes Jen. Tula likes Jen. They both admit that Jen is very, very powerful and very gifted, but she's untamed. So probably not the best choice. And Jen's just too independent. So Valya's like, look, we got to pair Ynez with someone that we can trust to basically listen to what we say, so we can keep her under line. And Kasha, who they're obviously tight with, they're like, look, Kasha's not going to be able to influence Ynez much longer, so we need someone else. So then that's when Tula's like, well, what about Teodosia? And she's talented and she has this unique background, and it turns out that she is Valya's favorite. So I think Teodosia is the choice, right? And then they do mention Lila. Lila happens to be Tula's favorite, and Valya you know what? I shouldn't say despises Lila, but she definitely doesn't respect young Lila because she thinks like she's too empathetic, and she's like, look, that's weakness. Weakness equals empathy. Empathy equals weakness, and this hurts Tula because Tula's like, basically just says like, well, not everyone's as vicious as you, Valya. And then Valya's like, don't like discount yourself. It's not about like, it's about what's on the inside, right? So we know who's calling the shots. Valya's the ruthless one. Valya's calling the shots. She seems to be the older sister, and there's that. So I'm gonna pause here before Kasha returns. If you have thoughts.
Yeah, we see the huge differences between the sisters really set themselves straight in this scene. We could already tell that Tula was more soft-spoken from earlier scenes, but now it really rears its head, and we see just like the ruthlessness that Valya has operated with precedes her. It is who she is. When I look at the prospect of Ynez coming in here, this is as if you're getting a LeBron, you're getting a Wembanyama, you're getting a Sidney Crosby when he came up through, you're getting Shohei Ohtani, whoever you want to say it is. This is an incredible prospect. So the choice on who to mold her when she comes on in is going to have that butterfly ripple effect that's going to reverberate generations down the line, because you really need to make sure you can control her, but you have to walk the fine line of making her powerful enough to respect what's going on as well. So this is going to be quite a balancing act to be able to pull this off, who she gets paired with, who she's enemies with, because it's going to become that kind of show. Like anytime you put people in a school type environment or like an academy environment, there's always a like friends, enemies, like frenemies, deception, backstabbing, all that jazz. I'm hyped to see who fits into which role. One thing I do know is that it seems like Jen is definitely the wild card.
Dude, I gotta admit, man, like I'm a sucker for the back to school elements, like whenever they
Hmm.
have them in shows. That's why I fucking love Wednesday. I just love the whole school show. That's why I loved Harry Potter. All right, so we then cut to Kasha returning, and they weren't expecting Kasha, right? I don't think.
No.
So Kasha like kind of makes a surprise return, and she tells them about the nightmare that she had, which basically said that like Ynez was gonna be in danger, and like a lot of bad stuff was gonna go down, and Valya's like, well, that's why we chose Ynez, right? Like we think that she has like a lot of potential. And we learned that the Sisterhood has actually, like you had mentioned, Damon, been working to slowly weaken the Emperor's grasp on Arrakis. So this is part of their plan. And right now, Ynez marrying House what's it called, Pruitt Richese is part of that plan. And Kasha's just like, well, what if your plan is the plan that actually brings about the destruction that Raquel spoke of? And this obviously hurts Valya a lot. And so this is the first time like really where Kasha's just like openly questioning if Valya really knows what the fuck she's doing, because that nightmare really shook her. And Valya's just like, look, just stay the night, Kasha. Just get your mind settled and remind yourself of your purpose and who you serve and like who you're loyal to. And then remember, our original plan was to get one of our sisters on the throne. That's the whole point of all of this. And this is the marriage that makes it possible, because the boy's gonna be so young. So they're like, tomorrow, Kasha, you got to return to Salunis Seleucus Secundus. Fuck. Oh, all right. Any thoughts before I jump to this like little very awkward wedding ceremony scene?
I'll just frame up the wedding scene a little bit by talking about what we've been ruminating on here for a couple seconds now. Natalya, the emperor's wife, is firmly against the idea of the wedding because she can sense the creeping influence of the sisterhood. She hates the marriage. He doesn't. Is he walking into a trap? Is there an angle being worked here? Of course there is. But we are about to see how it plays out through that angle. This is one of those weddings where it's like, yeah, there's really not a lot of love involved here. This kid is like 9 years old, and everybody's just kind of watching and hoping that nothing goes totally wrong.
Yeah. So we see the wedding, or the house Richese walks in. We see the dad. I don't. Do you know his first name?
Ah, I, Duke. I just got Duke Richese.
Duke, yeah, if you're in the chat and you know what this motherfucker's first name is, just let us know in the chat. But we see young Pruitt. He's quite young. He's 9 years old. They all walk in, and we see Constantine look over. He's like, I guess that's my sister's husband. That's my brother-in-law now. And Desmond Hart's there, just kind of chilling. So the greetings are had. Duke Richese's like, look, may I present to you my son? And then he kind of says some like sketchy shit where he's like, yeah, my son's going to be the one impregnating your daughter. Like he kind of just says that. He's like,
Really weird thing to do. Name is Ferdinand, by the way, which checks out. That's kind of an
Ferdinand, that
interesting name. Yeah,
motherfucker.
can't trust a Ferdinand.
No fucking way. Didn't World War One start because of Ferdinand was assassinated or some shit?
Franz Ferdinand is then, I mean, Columbus gets the bad rap, and it's definitely just deserved. But Magellan wasn't such a great guy either.
Yeah. So we don't we if your name's Ferdinand, you're probably an evil guy. So he says like, may the Richese seed find purchase in royal wombs. Just insanity to just tell a man like, yeah, my son's gonna like fuck your daughter. Just wait. That's basically what he tells Emperor Corrino. Corrino's like, yeah, I might be making a mistake right now.
I don't know about this guy.
Yeah, this guy's a fucking creep. So then we see Ynez pull up. She's looking hot as fuck. Except she's like, so she's supposed to be like what, like 16 in this, maybe 18. Like what's the like? Do you know like what age she would be when she's accepted into the sisterhood? Like I'm just trying to get not the actress's actual age, but like what she's supposed to represent.
Yeah, let's say I'd say around like 18, 20.
Okay. And she's looking over at Kieran, and Kieran and her like obviously are just like fuck. Like, so as this wedding's going down, we see kind of like what's going down back at Wallach 9, and Valya is concerned about what Kasha said. Like, she's not dismissing what Kasha said. She is definitely concerned about it. And Tula's like, well, if you're concerned about it, why don't you listen to her? Like, why'd you dismiss her? And Valya's just like, well, it's because I need blind obedience, essentially. And Tula's like, well, what the fuck? Like, you're just a dictator. And Valya goes, I basically, I am a dictator, but ultimately we're doing everything that Raquel has asked, which is true, right? Raquel has asked her to grow their ranks, protect their work, make them stronger. And that's everything that's happened right now. But Valya is still terrified because she's like, look, we're still weak despite how strong we may seem. So I just need commitment from everyone. And so even if I am concerned and I do kind of take what Kasha said heavily, I can't show that to her and let everyone know that like I can be questioned. So this is her leadership style. It is what it is. But Tula brings up a good point, which is, look, we know Kasha. She doesn't normally just abandon her post. So this is probably really fucking bad. And what if our like calculations, our match that we're making between Pruitt and Ynez, what if this is like a mistake? What if Ynez isn't really the one we should put our hopes in? So this is the first time that Valya has thought about that. Then we cut to the actual wedding. Ynez tries to talk to Pruitt. Pruitt needs like a stepladder to be at eye level with her. Shout out to all my short kings. If you're watching, there's always hope. You just got to be the son of a duke. So Ynez is like trying to have like polite conversation with this young boy. She's like, yeah, my family calls me Ynez. What do they call you? And then Pruitt's just like, look, we don't really have to fucking talk. This is just a formality, right? Like he's pretty fucking ruthless to her. And Ynez is like, okay, this boy might be hurt. He might be a little monster. So they kind of have their little ceremony thing. Everyone's watching. And then the marriage is I guess it's made official. So then later on that night, there's just they have their parties, and you kind of see Constantine. He's like the hot like young prince. So he's the one who like all the ladies are just like fawning over. They're all like, oh my god, he's so hot, and he's playing. Let's say this is like the guitar, right? This is the guitar in this world. He's playing some tunes. He's that guy, right? And then this other dude, Baron Harkonnen, is pitching Emperor Corrino on like an enterprise involving whale fur. So Corrino's not even thinking too much about it. He's just kind of nervous the entire time. He's worried about his daughter marrying Pruitt. Do you want to say anything before I go into this technology escape scene, or do you want me to continue and finish that out?
Yeah, I'll just give you a little. Richese fam gives some pretty messed up vibes. The kid reminds me of the rich baby that Stewie hated in Family Guy. I don't know how exactly to put my finger
That's a
on that
deep
one,
cut, but I like that.
that's what I'm feeling off this. Duke Ferdinand, it seems like the kind of dude who lies about his golf handicap pretty blatantly and owns a few too many Lacoste polos that are like a little too tight.
Yes.
The father says this is just a formality. Like, Jesus, kid, like at least enjoy the moment for a second. Side note on this current Baron Harkonnen, I think I like the modern Baron Harkonnen better, even though he's a terrible dude. But like this whale fur thing is just not interesting to anybody involved.
Yeah. So he sounds a little bit like you know what? I'm not even gonna say. I'm not gonna politicize this. All right. So then we see Ynez. She obviously doesn't like Pruitt now after that little rude exchange, but she's still, he's still a boy. Like, it's not his fault completely. He has a terrible father. So he has a bad influence, and he keeps like playing with something in his pocket, and she's like, what is that? What is that? You could show me. And Pruitt's like, you're not a truthsayer. Like, it's nothing. And she's like, yeah, but I'm not a truthsayer yet, but I know a liar when I see one. So she already has a little bit of talent, and she's good at reading people. And she sees that Pruitt actually has a piece of technology. It's like, this is like a little animatronic lizard, right? Essentially like a little robot droid lizard. And it starts running around, and Desmond Hart is the one who catches it and stabs it. And the reason why this is such a big deal is because technology was banned following the war. So this pisses Natalya off. She like that. This is like a huge violation, right? In this world, Damon, like this is very, very bad. So this is enough to call off the wedding. and she's leaning towards calling off the wedding from this. But ultimately, it is the Emperor's call. So the Duke is like, look, it's not a big deal. It's just a small toy. And Natalya says, look, you guys only exist because House Corrino defeated the thinking machines. So so the Duke then pivots to the Emperor. And he's like, look, are we really going to ruin this whole union because of some small toy? And the Emperor says, you know what? Let's just overlook this transgression. Is that what he says? Yes, he says transgression, which is like, if once someone has a transgression, you can't really overlook that. But he says, yeah,
That's on the record now.
yeah, let's overlook this. Also, is this the dude who plays in Sherlock Holmes the movie? I think it's either the first movie or the second movie.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? I think this is the guy who plays the villain in it, right? Like the fake magician,
Mark Strong.
Mark Strong. He might be. He just the face looks very similar, so I think this is the guy.
You mean Moriarty?
Yes.
Right.
No, not Moriarty. Let me see. Sorry, chat. We just got
It's a lord, right?
Yes, Mark Strong. I'm gonna type in Sherlock. Yes, he's in Sherlock Holmes. He plays Henry Blackwood. Yes, that's what it was. Lord Henry Blackwood. Good fucking call, Damon, on him being a lord. And we see that Desmond Hart the entire time is just kind of in this little, like, not a bomber jacket, but like a Dune style bomber. And he's just kind of chilling. And then this is the first time where Pruitt's like, oh my God, like he's kind of like a scared boy. And he's like, thank you, Ynez, thank you. And Ynez is just like, dude, you pull some shit like that again, and I'll fucking stab you myself. So Pruitt gets a stern yelling at, and Ynez is just fucking pissed at him, and she just storms out. And then later on at Wallach 9, what's it called? The sisters are talking, and Valya says, look, I checked the genetic archive again, and Ynez is the right choice, and this is the match that stabilizes the Corrino line for centuries. So good call, Damon, on the Corrino family being the same house in charge 10,000 years later, right? So this does work to stabilize their line. And then Tula's like, look, when this is all over, when the wedding's all over, why don't we have Kasha come back with us and spend some time here? And Valya's kind of like, look, we need her to keep doing her duty, right? That's essentially it. So I'm actually going to pause there before we go into this little dorm room scene between all of the other Sisterhood.
Yeah, I think the key line from that scene between Talia and Tula, or Valya and Tula, you can't keep picking pieces off the board just because they disagree with you, especially when they're trying to figure out what to do with Kasha. And I think we're going to see Valya as the control freak, right? She's the one who wants a hand in everything. She wants to be on the same level as everybody else in the world out here who's making all the moves. And we're going to figure out just how that winds up.
Yes. Then we see, hold on, I'm just pulling through my notes. Okay, yep. So then we kind of just see like the dorm room where all of the sisters are kind of preparing for them to have a new classmate in a sense, and they're talking about Ynez, and they're kind of like, yo, what the fuck? We've done all this training, and the princess from day one is going to be considered an acolyte, which is like I guess a higher level in the Sisterhood than they are, Damon. So they're kind of still like grunts in a way. And Jen's just like, look, she's a princess. Life isn't fair. Of course, this is what happens. Then we cut to the princess, and we see that her and her brother are about to go out. I gotta say, man, this is a hot family. Like, this is a hot fucking family, dude.
Good genes, man. Good genes.
Yeah, good genes, man. They're fucking hot as fuck. So you got Constantine and his sis. They're about to go out for one more night of debauchery, and they sniff some spice, but for all intents and purposes, this is basically some of that good old cocaine, baby. So they get a few bumps of that coke in their fucking systems before they go out, and as their part,
is it spice? Is it coke or spice?
It might just be coke. Is it spice? Do they have coke in this fucking universe?
I'm not sure.
Either way, yeah, they take some bumps. So they're like, so Ynez is down to do drugs. Ynez gets down. So Constantine and Ynez are about to go out for a night out, and then we see the Emperor. He's just fucking concerned. He's just scared the entire time, thinking. And Desmond Hart comes out to kind of chat with him a bit, and what's it called? This whole conversation, I definitely want your input on it, but basically the whole conversation is like Hart kind of warning, what's it called? Warning the Emperor, basically saying like, uh, that little insurgents on Arrakis, like there's something much bigger, right? Like the rest of the Imperium, there's way more rebellion going on. They're coming after you. Arrakis isn't the only place where you have troubles at. It's just a small like that. That's just a symptom of what's actually going on. And there's people in the Imperium who are asking, openly wondering, did we get rid of the machines? Were we too hasty with getting rid of the machines? And why is it only that the great houses are the ones that make money from spice? So there's a lot of discontent in the universe right now. And the Emperor's rebuttal is, look, I trust my truthsayer, Kasha. She's never led me astray, but I do feel like this wedding is wrong despite Kasha's recommendation. And Hart's just like, well, call it off. And we see like the Emperor, he says he can't call it off because if he calls off this wedding, then he's going to lose control of Arrakis because he won't be able to hold it. And his father never suffered such humiliation before, nor did his grandfather. So without spice, they would have nothing. They don't have enough power, and the great houses would just come after him. So at this point, then they kind of talk a little bit about religion, right? Like Desmond Hart starts mentioning some religion. He's basically saying, like, I shouldn't have even survived that attack on Arrakis. The only reason I survived was because maybe there was some greater power, right? And he says, when I took my first breath, I felt reborn. I was different. I was no longer afraid. So something went down during this attack that has fundamentally altered Desmond Hart. And Corrino's just like, look, religion, I don't give a fuck about religion. That's something my wife cares about. But if somehow the gods were able to intervene and free my daughter from this wedding, then I might be a true believer. So that is a very interesting thing that this motherfucker says. And then we see his nice zoom in on our boy D Hart. I'm gonna pause right here.
Yeah, not to foreshadow too heavily here, but this is a clear analysis of why D Hart is so different from the Sisterhood, right? He talks about praying to the gods and like hoping to the gods and putting faith and trust in them, whereas the Sisterhood really are playing God to an extent. So huge, like philosophical differences in this sense here. One thing that Desmond said really stuck out to me: fear can be debilitating, which reminds me of the "fear is the mind killer" line
Mm-hmm.
from the current Dune movies. It's clear that he's trying to curry some favor with the Emperor here, and I don't blame him because, especially after what he went through, I don't know if he's a messenger for somebody. I don't know if he is just like part of a different crew, but he clearly is an opposing force to whatever the Sisterhood is trying to put down right now. And the Emperor's got to take it seriously because when you control the Imperium, it doesn't mean that you control them forever. You still have to keep the houses happy because if there's too much instability, they can turn on you on a dime because everyone's always trying to be the next man up in this universe in terms of trying to have that power hold.
Yes, yes, yes. I do like that quote. Fear can be debilitating. So later on that night, or as the night continues, we see Ynez and Constantine. They pull up to this nightclub where everyone's just doing hella drugs. It's just like mad, like it's just like sex and lust. You know what I'm saying? This is like my type of club, man. So they pull up, and then Constantine's already kind of getting looks from everyone because he's young, he's rich, he's hot, he's famous, right? Like he's got power. So all the ladies are already checking out Constantine, and he kind of goes off to do his own thing. And then we see Ynez. Ynez is looking fire. Oh shit, that's a titty. Let me keep scrolling past that. So Ynez is just kind of goes to the bar, and then she sees that Kieran is there as well. In this leather jacket, they make eye contact, and the bartender is she a Fremen? She's not a Fremen, right?
She's definitely had a fair amount of spice at the very least.
Yeah, so she's got these blue eyes, and she's kind of like she's looking at Ynez the entire time, and she sees all of this goes down, and clearly the bartender knows who Ynez is, and she knows that she shouldn't be hanging out with this Kieran dude right now. since she's about to get married, or this is the night of her wedding. But Nez and Kieran don't care. They go down to the basement where they proceed to just I think they're doing spice. Are they doing spice, Damon, or they're just like smoking hookah or some shit? But
Looks almost like a spice vape.
yeah, spice. Oh my god, yeah, spice vape. And yeah, they got the Zins on deck, and they start banging. And I feel like this isn't the first time that they hooked up. Maybe it is the first time they hooked up, but I don't know. They seemed kind of familiar with each other's bodies. Then we cut to Wallach 9, and Lila can't stay, or Lila is having trouble falling asleep, and Jen's just like, what are you having some bad dreams? And Lila is like the heavy empath, so she's just like, I'm just concerned, and she calls Jen out for her story. The story that she told earlier in the day when she said, yeah, when I was young, I got sold to like this fucking child flesh salesman, and then I killed him, and then I killed my parents. So Lila's like, look, your story wasn't completely a lie. There's some element of truth to it. So that's very, very interesting. So which part was real? Was it the part where she killed her fucking parents? Was it the part where she got sold into slavery by her parents? Or is it the part where she killed her taskmaster? Like, one of those elements is real. And we see Valya is like struggling later that night as well. She senses a disturbance in the Force. Man, you can really see the Star Wars like poaching elements here. And then you're going to have to help me a little bit with this scene, Damon, right? So we see the Emperor, he's struggling to sleep as well. And he walks outside of his room to find like, what is this? Like the Dune version of a USB drive? Is that what it essentially is?
Yeah, he can plug this in and fire it up, and I think it's pretty much security footage of whatever planet he wants and whatever event he wants to see that's covered by what they can do. It's a lot of generalities right now. I was pretty shocked when I saw him pull this up.
Yeah, so we don't know who dropped this outside of his room. Maybe it was Desmond Hart, but it looks to be security footage of the attack that happened at Arrakis. So we see like all of the soldiers are fucking dead, and there's only one surviving, and we see that is indeed Desmond Hart. So his story tracks, and we see like he's just kind of looking in the horizon as a sandworm is about to devour him, and there's nothing he can do. While this is going down, we see that young Pruitt can't sleep, so he's just out in the halls by himself playing with this little animatronic lizard toy. And this is when Desmond Hart walks over. He's just like, oh, like, why are you awake? What are you doing here? What are you doing out here all alone? And Pruitt's like, I couldn't sleep. I had a bad dream. So this scene gets pretty fucking sketchy. So Desmond's just like, yeah, tell me about your bad dream. And so Pruitt's just kind of telling him, like, hey, my dad says that we're too hateful on technology. It's not that bad. And we've become too strict. And then he says like, hey, we're not having any war or whatever. There's no war going on here. If you're a soldier, like, why are you here? And this is when Desmond says, look, there is a war here. It's hidden in plain sight. It's waged by an enemy that has made themselves indispensable. That sounds a lot like the Sisterhood to me. And it has come here to do our thinking for us. And Pruitt's like, well, the machine wars ended ages ago. And Desmond goes, I know, they did. And that is why this is so troubling that we are being controlled again. This was so fucking ruthless. And then meanwhile, we kind of see the Emperor watching this replay or this footage of the sandworm like about to devour Desmond Hart, and he's on his knees. That is Desmond Hart in the footage, right? Basically.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's about to devour Desmond Hart, and Corrino's just like watching this footage, and it just crashes in, and it does devour Desmond Hart. So or it looks to have devoured Desmond Hart. So Corrino's like, what the fuck? Like, how is he still alive? And then this is when Desmond goes, this is why I've been gifted with a great power, right? He whispers that to Pruitt, and he goes, to win a war requires sacrifice, and your sacrifice won't be in vain. And this is when he just like he touches something in his head, some shit goes down, and then Pruitt's basically just is burned alive, like he's melted alive from the inside. And then at the same time, back on planet Wallach, is it Wallach 9? Yeah, Wallach 9. Yep. The same exact shit is happening to Kasha. So both Kasha and Pruitt have just been murdered, it seems, by Desmond Hart. And that is the end of the episode. What were your thoughts on all of that, all of those events?
It's never a great sign when someone looks to somebody towards the end of an episode and says, "But don't worry, like your sacrifice is going to help us a lot," and they don't really know what the other person's talking about. He is definitely the anti sisterhood for sure. He sees them as the next version of the machines. I'm wondering how he got his powers. Like, was it from the sandworm? Was it from something in the desert? Was it Fremen gifted? Like, what's going on here? He's telekinetically gifted, but in a diabolical way. And at first, you were hoping you could trust him, but there was just something about this guy you really weren't going to trust. And now we are left on a bit of a cliffhanger because the marriage is effectively dissolved. Like that's not going to go over well. That he died in the emperor's palace the night after the wedding. There's going to be a huge scene made from this, and yeah, I can't wait for next week.
Yeah. Well said there. The Duke is not going to be happy. War is now probably on the horizon. Um, Appreciate everyone who tuned in to watch this live stream. Appreciate you guys if you watched on the replay. Damon and I will be back next Sunday night with another breakdown for episode 2. Any other thoughts, Damon?
No, I'm just happy to keep this thing rolling. I'm glad that they were able to pull it off episode 1. If that's any indicator, I think we're in for a pretty solid season here.
Based on all the shows that we've broken down this year, this has been my favorite pilot so far. That's what I'll say. Or favorite first episode so far.
Fair.
All right. Appreciate it, everyone. We're ending it here. We will catch y'all later.